This show is part of the HeadStuff podcast network.
All right. How are you getting on? You here? How's you going on, anyway? How's you going, anyway? You win? Getting win? Are you good? Are you good? Hi, how's things? Sorry if there's a bit of an echo in here. Is there an echo in here? People can be so rude. Sorry, is there a parrot in here? You know, sometimes you say something that someone just said and they're like, is there an echo in here? I just think you're cool, man. I just want to say everything you say. Or do you know what I have a very bad habit of doing? Taking something... I wouldn't call myself a joke thief per se. But if someone makes a funny... Well, let's think of an example. Say you're in a group and, you know, I don't know. You know, say we're watching RoboCop. Bad example, right? And someone says, I tell you, you know, when he pops out that spike to plug it into the computer. Say we were sitting there, maybe one of the more meek lads of the crew. You know, the meek fella you keep around just to make yourself feel better. Yeah, every crew's got one. I'm not going to name ours. Actually, there's a few. Actually, the whole fucking lot of them are meek. And there's me, the alpha. I'm actually an alpha of my friends group. Even though I've had the least amount of sex, whatever. Like, that's not, whatever. What am I doing? I throw myself under the bus. You know, but whatever. I'm actually married and I've had sex. Not publicly, but like I've more public proof that I've had sex than my mates do. Right? Because I have children. I did sex to completion, right? I completed it, mate. What are you doing? You know? It's not the same. Whatever. Look, I'm just saying, I'm the alpha of my friend group, right? And if I'm hanging out with one of the more meek boys, right? And we're watching RoboCop and he sticks the spike in, you know? And then he goes, you know, I wonder what his robo dick looks like or something. Something kind of funny, right? But he says it kind of meekly and no one else hears. Then I'd be the one to fucking hit that on the volley. And I'd be like, hey, show me that robo dick. Which is a kind of a different joke, but I'd say it with a level of inflection that would get the attention of these little dweebs, my best friends, little dweebs, because I'm the leader, you know? And then they'd laugh at that because they wouldn't hear, you know? Yeah, Christ said, blessed are the meek. Didn't say they were fucking funny. Didn't say they were funny, though. Christ never said anything about the meek boys being fun, whatever. You know? And I'm meek. You know, people think I'm an extrovert. I'm actually quite shy, you know. But there's been a great leveler. There's been a great leveler with technology. You know, for one, I can see my eyes. If I was out in the woods with all the boys, Neanderthals or whatever, you know, I'd be there stroking a fucking panther, thinking it was my wife. And I'm like, baby, why are you so much sexier today? Like, something's different about you. Maybe it's the smell of raw meat off your breath. Maybe it's your tail. But Terry, I love this new you. And then she'll go, because I don't have my glasses on. Because they don't exist. They don't exist. You know? So thank God for technology. Yes, I am broad. I'm a broad boy. So I probably would be quite strong. You know? I was reading this book. I'm trying to be more smart and all for 2024, right? I find like having specific goals are really essential. Sorry, I'm trying to unplug my phone from the charger here. I find having kind of, you know, very specific goals, smart goals, smart, measurable, realistic, and time. All right, that's what SMART goals stand for, right? So I find having very specific goals. So my goal this year, being a bit more smart and all, oddly enough, be a bit more smart. Weirdly, that acronym actually just works quite well for my goal of being more smart. Whatever, just as a side note, that's just a coincidence that smart, right? Whatever, shut up. So my goal is be more smart this year. So I started reading this book, listening to a book, but reading a book. You know, that Sapiens book by Yuval Garang or whatever his name is, you know. Something funny anyway. Well, it was hardly John Smith. Of course the name's funny. Speaking of funny names, I was told my young fella, I was like, he was eating mango, and I said, do you know there's a man called Mango? And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, he's a rap singer. And his name's Mango. And he was like, and it is funny. It is funny. We all act like it's not funny that Mango's name is Mango. Great name. Great rapper. Great rap singer. Good guy. But a funny name, And, this is the level of truth that you get from a child. Honestly, from the mouth of babes. From the mouth of babes. And then the rest of whatever that saying is. Anyway, what was it saying? Yeah, I was reading this book, Sapiens. And I'm reading it for like an hour. And, interesting, telling you that there's different types of homos out there, Erectus damn near killed us. Homo. Hey, I met this fucking caveman last night. He ended up fucking going to bed with the cunt. Homo erectus? Yeah, damn near killed us. The size of his Johnson. Is that already a joke? Well, if it is, guess what? I'm sure a Meek lad said it to me, so it's mine now. Look, if I can beat you in a fight, I get your joke. Right? That's the caveman rule of comedy. This is the thing, we're all fucking cavemen out there. Love that line in the film Closer. Where Clive Owen is screaming at Julia Roberts. Mike Nichols' film. Don't know why. It was like one of my favorite films when I was like 14. This kind of like, this love triangle of affairs and just men just being so insecure and just screaming at each other. I think it just genuinely just tapped into exactly my hormones at the time, being, I'm actually jealous of everyone, because, I was Meek back then. But it's a great line that Clive Owen does where he finds out Julia Roberts after having an affair. And he goes like, did you fuck him? And she goes like, yeah. Was it good? Was it better than me? He's laying it on. And she goes, why do you want to know? And he goes, because I'm a fucking caveman. Love it. Love it. Best line of the flick. Anyway, what was the same? So anyway, caveman. So he goes, your man, whatever his name is, smart guy, wrote book, right? Me, Tarzan, you, Jane, right? He goes, he's shouting on for a while, and he goes, there's all these different types of homos out there. You got Homo erectus, Homo sapien. But, for the sake of this book, they're all technically human. Essentially saying that there was different genus of man, of humans. And then Homo sapiens in the last 70,000 years across 2.5 million years. So this small blip in 70,000 years, just huge advancement. And then kind of that's where the rest of the book is going, I think. But for the first hour, he's talking about all these humans. And he's like, yeah, Homo erectus and Neanderthalis. And then he goes, and then of course, even small, genus like the Homo florensis. And I'm like, that's a funny name. And then he goes, standing at a stature of about 3 foot tall. And I'm like, what? What? You've buried the lead here, bro. Your book about sapiens, about humans. You should have called this book Little Fellas. The whole book should be about these little fellas. And he goes, yeah, so there's standard Homo erectus, probably standing at about, or sapiens really, standing at about 160 centimeters, maybe 160, 170 centimeters. These little fellas, these fuckers, right? Maybe 100 centimeters? 100 centimeters, 3 rulers. 3 rulers on top of each other. And then you picture, okay, 3 foot tall little fella, right? Surely must have a big head, maybe big hands, short little legs. Exactly in proportion, men and women. And NBs probably. Then, at only 3 foot tall, little fellas on the island of Florensis. They went out there, all the big boys died off because they're like, hey, ain't much, they walked out there, then typical C, you turn your back for a million years, all of a sudden it's covered a landmass. You're like, oh shit, I just walked over here, call me a little Thai boy in a cave, right? Because I wasn't expecting this level of water flow. Only a million years we've been fucking around in these little forests, and we turn around, all of a sudden this little, walking bank is gone, covered in water. Like, okay, guess we're stranded on this island of Florensis. Then it's like, all right, well, all the big boys like me, we're like, I'm actually fairly starving right now. And then the small boys are like, I'm actually not starving. I'm actually not starving. I know there's not a lot of grub, but I suppose I just have a smaller belly. Okay, that sounds all right. Is there any grub? Bam, dead. All the big boys are dying off. All the little fellas are like, this is class. Just enough food for me. I'm actually on a diet at the moment. Then millions of years go by, they get smaller, and smaller, smaller little 3-foot lads living on the island of Florensis. Homo florensis. So, I am now telling you now, my new passion in life is these little cave fellas, right? Little cavemen. Homo florensis. And I thought it's just so me. Do you know what I mean? Just be sitting there being like, this is kind of interesting. More out of obligation, just wanting to be a bit of a smarter boy, reading the book. And then it's like, and there was a little fella, and I'm like, here we fucking go. You know, I want to start singing ole, 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 ole. I know he's not Irish. He's probably even Italian. I don't even know where Florencis is. But I can tell you the height, 3 feet. All right? Most interesting fact to me, little fella. How's the book? Great. Can I tell you something amazing about it? There's a little fella, I says to Terry. So that's my new thing at the moment. So, and there probably was little alphas. This is the thing. There's, you know, it's hard to know. For an alpha to be an alpha, it has to be kind of a universal alpha, you know? I mean, maybe they were. Maybe they were real thick fucking with you know, Joe Pesci types. Maybe those little fellas, if they got back on the land, maybe they will be running things. I used to not know what an OAP was. And I remember thinking, like, you go to the cinema and it'd be like student, you know, adult, €8. Student, €7. OAP, didn't know what that was. €6. I'm like, who are these fucking OAPs? And I was picturing, like, are these like just better people? Why does someone else get that kind of price? And I was picturing what an OAP would be. I was like, I wonder if it's like this, just like, you know, the architects, the builders from Prometheus, you know, big, tall, perfect, you know, sculpted from marble, fit boys that are just bigger in more proportion, bigger, sexier boys, and they're like, one for Prometheus, please. Big lanky fucker, and like, oh my god, like we could be living in a world where there's different types of homos out there, you know, and that's the point that it makes, that Homo sapien was the one that killed off the rest, essentially, or they died out for whatever reason, you know, just with their larger brains and access to tools and fire. They were like, hey, no room for the little guy anymore. But we could have been living in a society, like if there was like a, you know, what would it look like? And he makes the point, what would religion look like? What if Jesus came from one of the little fellas? This is not his words, they're my words. What if Jesus came from one of the little fellas? And he's like, blessed are them little meek boys like me. And what if, you know, Muhammad was like, hey, all of yous are welcome in heaven. Not just the little fellas. All of yous are welcome in, you know, the afterlife or whatever he believes. No, they don't believe in reincarnation. This is why I'm reading books. This is why I'm reading books. Because I want to know in bullet point form what's going on. You know, look, I'm downplaying. I'm a bright guy. I know I'm a bright guy, but I don't have the aptitude for reading. But I also just can't. I can't read fiction. Everyone just kind of looks. It's going to sound really weird, but I've weird hang-ups in my head, right? What is when I'm reading a book, I don't know why this is, but the male lead always looks like Matt LeBlanc in my head, right? Whatever I'm reading, Harry Potter, you know, Hermione, how you doing? You know, Ron, even, you know, it goes from, then Ron said, it's also Matt LeBlanc. 2 pizzas? You know? Matt LeBlanc, Joey from Friends. And I can't shake it as much as I want, you know? And I think Cameron Diaz is usually the woman. And I'm like, this doesn't seem like a good film. So every film I'm reading like Cormac McCarthy's The Road. And I'm like, I don't see Matt LeBlanc in this. I just don't see him in this. You know? People probably have better imaginations. I don't. Like you know, you can call me Willy Wanker, right? Because I get my pure imagination out, right? I don't have an internal monologue. I don't really visualize anything in my head, really. Everything that comes out is like the first time I'm hearing about it, you know? That's why I talk so much. I'm chatting shit all the time. I cannot think independently, and so I find it hard to read independently. But if someone just tells me facts, I can kind of picture that. So nonfiction usually works for me. You know, unless it's like and even when it's a very narrative one, it's like, I don't care if I'm reading a book about the history of Nintendo, and Shigeru Miyamoto is very, very untastefully played by Matt LeBlanc, you know, the creator of Mario. Like, it's not great, but hey, I can buy it, you know, for some reason. Another weird thing that happens is, and I wish I was joking about these. When someone says, all right, think of something, the first thing I think of is monkeys, right? I always think of monkeys. Maybe that's why I'm so into this homo florensis little fella, right? Because it's not even that I love monkeys. I just can't get them out of my fucking head. I'm always thinking about monkeys. And if I don't know, say if someone's like, will you play a song? Or pick a song there on Spotify. I'm like, monkeys. I've almost built up my brain just to be like, you know, monkeys, no, not monkeys, but what else? So like the first thought I have is like monkeys, and then the second thought is no, not monkeys, and then I can think again. But it's such a waste of energy, such a waste of my big, delicious, protein-rich brain that I've derived from eating cooked meat over the fire as a homo sapien, right? So I find it hard. It's just a waste of energy all the time. Or like, what film we watch? Monkeys. No, not Monkey, but 12 Monkeys. You know, like 12 Monkeys comes up as a suggestion in my head all the time. You know, or the movie Monkey, the Monkeys did, the band The Monkeys. I end up playing far too much Daydream Believer by the Monkeys on Spotify, just because Monkeys is the first thing that pops into my head. I'm actually, you know, I wouldn't mind listening to, you know, Daydream Believer. Did they have I'm a Believer as well? Daydream Believer and a homecoming queen, then I saw her face, I'm a believer. There's too many believers. True Believer, Excelsior. My favorite band is the Monkeys because they say believer in the songs twice. It's my Stanley impression. What was I saying? Little fella, monkeys. Yeah, I can't. Everything. You know? What we do today? Zoo. Monkeys, fucking hell. I don't know. Cinema. What we go see? Kong. I don't think it's on. You know? I swear to God this is true. I swear to God this is true. First thing is monkeys, and then I have to be like, fucking hell. It's a waste of time. I'm wasting it. I actually think I went to get hypnotized before, as you know, for my eating addiction, right? Which is also just gone, suppressed itself somehow. You know, I was talking about this, was last year, I was doing all this shit. That's gone. Like, I've lost, without looking at myself, I've lost like 10 pounds, right? When you check down the back of the couch, that's actually a Limmy joke. I've lost 10 pounds, right? By doing nothing. By eating shite, by spending the Christmas eating celebrations. I think maybe I'm cycling a bit more. I don't know. You know? Opened my Fitness Pal again. You know, the kind of app where you kind of log your weight and you log your calories and all that. And I'm like, I'm still like 16 pounds heavier than I was when I felt like I was at my lowest to download. You know what I mean? I'm 16 pounds heavier than I was. And I'm like, oh my God, something needs to change. I need to get an app, you know? Let me tell you something. I saw a quote. Actually, I thought of this before I saw the quote. So this isn't me stealing a joke off a Meek lad, right? I don't actually steal jokes off Meek lads, but you know the way you're in conversation. Someone says something, they're like, that was a bit undercooked. Here's a bit of, how about that with a bit of spice? And then all the lads laugh. And you're like, oh, I just said that. I'm like, well, you didn't say it loud enough, right? I'm a horrible devil for that. Anyway, I said this a year ago, that, you know, you'll always just find a photo of a time that you thought you weren't looking that hot. And you're like, oh my God, little dampy yolk. Little wetzer. Hey, lock up your gaff, McAllisters, because the wet bandits are outside in a van. I'm talking about a picture of you as a young fella. Okay? So I'm kind of just been like, so I'm owning that a little bit more. No, that's not what I was talking about. What was I saying? Yeah, you will always look back on a photo. So even right now, you'll look back at this and be like, oof, definitely would. Well, probably wouldn't. I'd find it very difficult. I wouldn't want to kiss myself. I think I'd have to adopt some sort of like Pretty Woman, Richard Gere, Julia Roberts rules. Her rule is like no kissing, you know? Which is just a genius piece of screenwriting. She's like, I don't kiss. Because then when they do kiss, it means something. You know? They've smoldering chemistry, and you're like, this is pretty hot. They're having a ride on a piano. I mean, he's kind of in a bit of a weird, but it's aged in its way, and it's also timeless in its way. But then when they do kiss, you're like, they've already rode. How is it that a kiss after is the most dramatic moment of a movie about a guy who hires a sex worker, and then George tries to get off with her? George from Seinfeld tries to get off with her, but the most dramatic moment is when they kiss. They've already done everything, That's why I think people should stay frigids, I was a frigid, for a long time, and I think it was the best thing that ever happened to me. No meeting, the no shifting. I'm actually going to do a whole year no shifting. It'll be pecks on the cheek, full blown sex, but no kissing on the lips for the year. I find it helps with my stamina. I find it helps with my breath work. I find it helps my cognitive ability, my ability to recall. No tongues. What was that? What am I talking about? Are you here? Is this good? Does this even go out to anyone? I know you're a very loud and sexy and vocal crew, but I really think you should get behind this whole no shifting thing for 2024. Because then I think when it happens, I think you should put on your Bumble, hey, love kissing, love having the ride, no shifting, no tongues in 24. There's needs to be something trendier, like no fap, no fap's big. There's a whole fucking vibe on like no fap. No, I'm not going to wank all year. I'm going to, fast for, this is how my 30-day fast is going. A lot of people doing fuck all and acting like they're supreme optimum athletes. Dana White's like, I'm 72 hours into my fast. I've never felt more amazing in my life. You do nothing. I used to do fasts all the time. I used to do 20-hour fasts all the time. Because guess what? I had no money. So I'd eat nothing. And then I'd go get fucking Dixie chicken. Spend £3 on my dinner. Which is a lot for Dixie chicken. You'd be eating for 2 weeks on £3. But, a lot of this kind of like, I'm not breathing for a minute. Like, fuck. That sounds class. Like that sounds class. It sounds very appealing that I could just sit there and do nothing and then call myself a supreme athlete, Peak physical performance. Although I am talking about protein too much. I'm eating protein. And that's all I'm doing. And I don't know if it's doing anything for me, to be honest. I think I'm keep staying fuller for longer. And I like missions. I like little plans, little missions that are like, you need to eat more. And actually, I want to get into powerlifting. I just want to be eating protein and picking up heavy things. That's what I want to get into. So if anyone knows any powerlifting gyms, or if you're a member of a powerlifting gym and you'd like to let me in, an absolute newbie. My new buzz for 2024 is eat more, lift big thing. I do not want to be a cut man, and I mean that in the abs way, not in the foreskin way. Though, if circumcision became kind of like trendy, like you could do different shapes, I would be into it. You do like a star spout or like a crescent moon spout. I don't know what circumcision is. But if it was like, do you want your pee to come out in the form of a star? Yes, I do. Would it be the pee hole or would it be the skin? I don't know, whatever. I think circumcision needs to be a little bit less, what would you call it? Fucking like religious. A little less doctrine attached to it and a little bit more style. Although it's probably more stylish for me having the skin, I want to see more Mickeys like mine on TV, I don't know if I do But anyway, I think, what am I talking about? Cut. Yeah, I don't want to be cut. I don't want to be cut like, Brad Pitt in Fight Club kind of cut. Good for him. Good for him. But you know what that reeks of? No hash browns. And, you know what I mean? Don't know if I'm... Also, I've been watching, I watch so much men's health, men's fitness videos, Hey, I'm Glenn Powell, and this is my fridge and gym. I drink vegan slime. I find vegan wax and vegan paste to be the nicest of the dairy supplements, dairy alternatives. All this shit. I open up a fridge and I'm like, what am I fucking looking at here, bro? What am I looking at? This bread has 100 grams of protein per slice. Just goes, boom, falls on the fucking ground, stubs his toe on it. All this shit. I don't like. Where's the fucking food, man? You know what I mean? I drink almond milk. I don't touch any other thing but almond milk. It just doesn't make any sense. I'm all for people being plant-based and all that stuff, but show me something that looks like fucking food. You know what I mean? Show me a fucking plum in your fridge, Glenn Powell. If Glenn Powell had big juicy lips, I don't know what I'd do. He's got little lips, but if he had a little Troye Sivan head on him, things might change for me in a way. No, he's not hairy enough. Not hairy enough for me. I like girls. I like turtles, and I love girls. What am I talking about? I want to get bigger, I think I want to get bigger. I think I can pick up heavy shit. I got a big back. I've got a big back, all right? And I want to use my back. And I think, I'm not carrying 220 kg bags around for my wife, just for the fucking hell of it. You know what I mean? I don't know what I mean by that. I suppose I mean that the only person at the moment who can see me comfortably carrying 220 kg bags and off the ground, will be my wife. And normally at that time, we're kind of in a hurry. We're in Dublin Airport. The kids are trying to fucking pull a gun on the staff. Whatever it is, They're eating fucking grapes off the floor, sucking grapes out of the sewer. The only person seeing me is my stressed wife. And never once has she said, you look fucking jacked picking up those 220 kg bags. So I think I need another public way of picking up heavy shit and getting bigger in doing so. And I think a diet that would appeal to me would be you need to be eating more calories, And look, I'm all for the clean bulk, chicken and rice and all that good stuff, right? I just need to be pointed in the right direction for the sake of using that to pick up big things. And I want to have a list of all the big things I ever picked up. Big concrete sphere. Check. A bust of an old fucking duke from one of those manor houses that you go to. You go to a park and they're like, oh, we visit the manor house. There's a bit of a museum in there. And you're like, my heart is screaming, no. But my in-laws are saying yes. And I go into this thing and I see a big heavy bust of some guy with mutton chops. And I'm like, I bet I could pick you up, you fucking clown. Bet I could pick you up. Pick up a big bust of a guy with jowly cheeks and mutton chops. Check. One time Terry got the car was stuck in the middle of the road. The gear stick had jammed betwixt the reverse and first gear, and she couldn't get it out. And she called me in a bit of a panic, and I'm like, okay, well, what's going to happen? And then she's like, look, this happened before, and there's no one around here, and I'm in the middle of the road. Can you get down here? And she's like, I don't even know what you can do. The last time someone was here, there was two big guys had to help me fucking push the car so I could get it, because once it moves, it'll start. And I'm like, all right, I'll give it a shot. Went down there, just me on my fucking Tobler on my own, pushed it up a hill. I think those two guys were pushed. The two big guys you mentioned were pushing it down a hill. One man, me, pushing it up a hill, and it started. So, okay, is that the strongest guy you ever heard of? Maybe. Yeah. Does he powerlift? Not yet. What's his calories? Probably only about 2.2 K a day. So, look, I just need a fellow huge jacked man to point me in the right direction to a powerlifting society. Maybe where you just do weird tricks like rip phone books in half, be into that. Bending bars that are malleable, but most people can't bend. Like if you handed it to someone in a crowd, they'd be like, can't bend that. And then I can bend it. You know, I'm already able to blow up entire paddling pools without the safety of a pump, without the support of an electric pump. So I'm making good headway now, but my flexibility is kind of losing, and I'm not able to do that Tony Cantwell shuffle that I used to be able to do with my hips. If you ever come see me dance live, I'm a great dancer. I'm phenomenal. What the fuck is this? This is the opposite of Gary. Who's this guy? I can't stop flattering myself. Who would we call him? Bruno. No, something. Fabio. Yeah, Fabio. I'm going to be a bit more Fabio today. But look, I'm sorry this is also a audio pod, but I'm going to be back in the habit. Sister Act 2, back in HeadStuff offices, where I'll be recording. I'm going to record a few this week so that there's a bit of a backlog, and it's just going to be consistent video. That was the plan. And here I am, still recording these myself at home, on the couch right now, not in the car. Brought the Christmas tree out to be destroyed. And I tell you, it was like a goddamn methadone clinic. There was needles everywhere. I said methadone, so I fucked it up. There was needles everywhere. I tell you, it was like a Back to the Future bassist of the Chili's look-alike competition, because the amount of needles. Flea, of course, from the Chili's played the character Needles in Back to the Future too. Anyway, look, I love you. Thanks very much for listening to me and loving me, and I love you. And I want to tell you that what you should do is go over to headstuffpodcast.com, that's where you get my new podcast. I wouldn't be signing up to Patreon now, but if you want to support me in any way, there's two ways you can do that. You can go over to headstuffpodcast.com, where you can listen to the podcast, the bonus podcast that I put out every single week, in video this time, and that comes out every Friday, and is also a good place where you can support Young Hot Guys. So if you want to you can support both of us. Don't spread it out. Support me and support them. That'd be great, and that's good for everyone if you do that. Another way you can support me, as well as going over to headstuffpodcast.com, is by going onto my link tree, linktr.ee/Tony Horror, where you can find my tickets to see me on live. What am I talking about? Come see me live. Tony Cantwell, Litterbox, come to a town near you. On Friday, April 5th, I'm coming to Vicar Street in Dublin. Tickets are flying for that, so they might even be almost close to sold out. But don't worry, I'm also going to be in Vicar Street on June the 14th. That's a Friday. Thursday, April 11th, I'll be in Dundalk at the Spirit Store. April 18th, I'll be in the Abbey Tavern in Howth. That was one of my favourite gigs I did that year. I love the Abbey Tavern if you're around that area. I love everyone, though. The Dreacht in Blanchardstown. I've yet to go, but I've heard some great things about Blanche, and I'm going to be there on April 19th, Friday, April 19th, the day before 420. That'll be interesting. Will I be stoned? 100% not, but I might pretend like I am. April 25th and April 26th, that's a Thursday and Friday, I'm going to be in the Whale in Greystones. Lovely little spot. In Dolan's in Limerick on May the 2nd. Great spot as well. Cypress Avenue in Cork. Great spot. Sorry, May 2nd in Dolan's in Limerick. Friday, May 3rd, Cypress Avenue, and then closing it off June 14th in Vicar Street. Please come see me, and the tickets are available on linktr.ee/Tony Horror, or just type in Tony Horror. Litterbox. Tickets. Tony Cantwell. Anyway, look, I love you and leave you. All the best. Bye-bye.
This show is part of the HeadStuff Podcast Network, a hub for the creative and the curious. Shows are produced in association with HeadStuff and the Podcast Studios Dublin. Find out more or become a member at headstuffpodcasts.com.